For an independent project this semester, I focused on SAP ByDesign. For my project, I was given a lot of different materials involving ByDesign, including PowerPoints and documents to help users get familiar with the system and that go over different process flows that you'll be using. And I was also given a lot of different cases to work through that are basically put you in scenarios of a real life business, and you go through the different steps of how you would go through the scenario using ByDesign. And by the end, my goal of the project was to determine where these materials could be added into the curriculum and classes that I had taken. So the majority of my work was dealing with the cases that were given to me, which you take in the role of different users in a business and go through different steps and do real life experiences that a typical user in ByDesign would go through each day. You start off in a HR setting where you get familiar with the system and then learn how to add and edit employees. You learn how to fire and rehire employees. Next, you go into an operations management sort of field. You look at source determination and look at all of your products, and you can export them to Excel to see the different classifications and types of products that you have. Then you create a new material and a new supplier that will be used in the further cases. The next stage was supply planning and processing, which is really what a lot of operations management class focused on. We learned a lot about forecasting and inventory management and in what situations different types of inventory management would be appropriate. So in that step, you create a supply and demand list and do other things that really related well to that class. And then after that, you move on to the marketing division, where you get to create a new campaign and send out the campaign to different customers, and then enter in a made-up phone call with a customer, just as you would if you were talking to a real customer and entering in the notes after you had completed a sales call. You get to create an opportunity and track the opportunity through the stages as you create sales orders from the opportunity. Then you sort of go back to operations management and do supply planning and work with some logistics to make sure that you have the supply that the customer is demanding. And in this case you don't, so you need to order more and make sure all of your delivery dates line up and that you can get the product to the customer when they want it. And there's a interesting thing in ByDesign called document flow, where you can start with one document and you get to see how it progresses as you go through these steps. You see how it starts with the opportunity and then goes to sales requisition and a sales order, and you can click on the different documents and it will show you, and you get to see how the information that started in the first document is carried over and more information is added to it to create the newer documents. So after the first marketing with the product, you move on to working with services. You get to create a new service and then essentially go through the same marketing stages again, but this time with a service instead of a product. You create another opportunity, a sales quote, and then you calculate the profit margin in the sale. And this one was different than the product when you calculate the profit margin, because depending on what employee you're logged in as, the profit margin will vary, because since you're performing a service and different employees require different wages, the profit margin will be adjusted based on what the specific employee makes per hour. Then you work with the service and sell the service to the customer, and then in the next stage you go into project planning, which would go very well with operations management or also with the project management course, where you work with the same customer you've been working with and he needs project taking care of his business, and you need to work with the service that you created and the product you've created and sort of wrap everything together into making this one project for the customer. In this stage, you get to use a Gantt chart, which is built into ByDesign, where you get to add the tasks, the dependencies, and the durations, and make sure all the dates line up so that the project can be completed on time as the customer demands it. So you plan the project, and then you implement the project and work. And after you've done that, you get to see the project costs and revenues and see the variance comparing the planned and incurred costs. Then you move to a customer service position where the customer has some issues with the product and needs some spare parts, and you have to go out, make sure you have the spare parts, and go to the customer in order to fix the products that have malfunctioned. And then finally you go into the accounting and finance division and get to look at the open entries and see all the different journal entries in the general ledger and sub-ledgers, and you see what's overdue, what payables need to be sent out, and what receivables you should be expecting from your customers. And you get to do different financial analysis and look at the bank statements, cash positions, liquidity forecasts, and the income statement and balance sheet. And it really is cool to see once you go through all of them, how even the steps that you completed in the first case end up coming back, and you see the results from them even in the last case. And it really does take you through so many different functional areas of the business, so you get a really broad feel for the capabilities of what ByDesign can do. Another main part of SAP ByDesign is using reports and dashboards. Many companies nowadays have tons of data from their operations, but have trouble using this data and turning it into a form that can help them make decisions about the company. They're stuck with just spreadsheets of numbers, can't get much use out of it. And what SAP ByDesign does is makes it easy for you to make reports and turn them into visual graphs and charts, and you can easily modify them and take things out, add things in, drill down deeper into the report, and just keep expanding on one report once you have it. And it just really makes it simple to do and can save businesses a lot of time, and in the end money, because you can use your data to make wise decisions about your company. So I'm just going to go through some of these and show some examples, and you'll see what they look like. So here's one report from ByDesign of employee turnover. You can see there's a chart as well as a table. You can see here we have executives and permanent employees, and it lines up with what's shown in the table. Here's a report in ByDesign of sales order volume. You can see it's separated out monthly, and you can easily tell just from a quick glance which months have brought in the most sales orders and which months have brought in the least. Here's the same report, this time in a pie chart. You can see all the different numbers displayed in a different way. And it's really takes a couple clicks to change the graph from one to the other. Here's sales order volume again, but this time separated instead of by months into suppliers. So you can see the different suppliers here, and each one corresponds to a color. You can see Almica Inc. has the most, is the largest portion of the chart, and there are other suppliers that have smaller slices. And again, that's just manipulated by changing what was in the rows column. Very easy to do. Here's another example, still in the same report, sales order volume. This time separated into services and materials. You can tell that materials are dominant in this company and bring in the most money, so maybe the executives, upon seeing this, would decide that they need to work more with their service division to maybe get their name out there, start more campaigns, reach out to more customers. Here's that same report of broken down even further now into type and then product category. So you can see that your two services are here, and then all of your other parts. And you can see the services and then all the materials are now broken up into their different product categories. You can see that cylinders overwhelmingly brings in the most money. Here's sales order volume again, displayed a little bit differently this time. Again, broken up by product type and product category, but this time simply by changing the product type from rows to columns. It changes the colors, makes the graph a little bit more friendly and easier to use for whoever needs to look at this data and make decisions. Here's a new report of a list of payables. You can see all of the payables that are overdue for this company. And now here's that same report in a pie chart form. See all the different companies have their own slice, and you can see easily which one's bigger, which ones need to be dealt with now, which ones are smaller. And here's the same report again, this time in a bar chart form, and you can tell which ones have the most substantial amounts and which ones are small. And another great thing about ByDesign is that things are easily exported into Excel. So here is that same report stuck in Excel, so you can manipulate the data even more. Maybe if you're more comfortable using Excel, you can turn this into different pivot charts and make different graphs out of this that you wouldn't be able to do in ByDesign. So another big part of ByDesign is the dashboards, which display information in real time, and you can bring these up and it shows you different reports. You can set up your page to show whatever reports you want, and you'll open up your financials dashboard, and here are all of your 4 reports that you wanted to see. And where the company bar is, you can click here, select a different company, and all of the graphs and charts will adjust to the new company. You won't need to reload the page or anything. Here's another dashboard of human resources, which is a little bit of what we were looking at before in the report. You can see here employee entries, transfers, and terminations. Here's the 250 entries with about 50 entries, and then the other 190 entries that we saw on the other report. And you can see the turnover rate, dismissals compared to resignations, employee absences, and the structure of your workforce, mostly permanent employees and then some executives. Here's another dashboard of purchasing. You see the top 10 suppliers, top 5 product categories. These are all major reports that any company executive would want to see, and they're there for you in real time with just a few clicks. All the information's right there, easy to see, easy to tell what your best supplier is, who your worst supplier is, and just like you could make a dashboard with the payables or receivables and see who you need to pay the most money to, what customer owes you the most money. And just by showing these reports and dashboards, it's really easy to see why people would want SAP ByDesign. Really does so much with the data and can present data in such a easy to see form, which is really what a lot of companies struggle with. Just getting the data to visualize instead of just being a bunch of numbers. So I would recommend SAP ByDesign to many businesses, and I'm excited that Salisbury University will begin to start using this great tool in with their curriculum.